Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another scene set in the Chronicles of Darkness, Vampire the Requiem for London. And tonight we set our scene with a new kindred, or rather a very old kindred that has entered the domain. Returning after a long journey from Edinburgh. Business having taken him many more years than he perhaps would have liked. Balthazar! You wake up in your penthouse suite, with the night falling in London far faster than it does outside of the city. Very much feels good to be home. You arise and you tend to your needs. What's the first thing that he does? You have a meeting of the king, or so he calls himself tonight, not the prince.
So, Balthazar rises, as he does every evening. He will dress in his finery. Rolex watch, fine Italian suit, gold tie pin, etc. He will check the local. He will check the glowing screens that are feeding him the information on the various different stock exchanges around the world, as he makes some kind of mental notes for changes to have entered into the various different brokers that he uses the next morning. Before he will go downstairs, basically summon the lift to the penthouse, proceed down, and arrange a limo service to take him where he needs to go.
Okay. So, your destination is the Guildhall in the city of London. Beautiful yet old structure. You're aware that the city of London as a borough has been closed off to all but certain privileged parties of the domain, almost entirely Invictus, although there are a few among the other sects that have the right, largely for Crone. It's a very comfortable journey from the Shard to the Guildhall, although your limousine takes its time. It is slow travelling through London, and it is even slower travelling through London in a limousine. But you still make it with a few minutes to spare.
Balthazar will step out of the car. He kind of brushes down his suit with both of his his gloved hands. He has a cane that he walks with, because this is a fixture of most of my characters at this point, particularly those who have to arm themselves, and there is a sword hidden inside the cane. This is a common feature of most of my characters who use melee. But he will inform the driver that to wait, and that he will summon him when is necessary. Before his eyes glance left to right to see if there's anyone out here to meet him.
at the outside of the front doors to the guild hall. You see two gentlemen with two gentlemen in tidy black suits. You think they're wearing Kevlar vests underneath. And earpieces in both of their right ears.
Do either of them have predatory auras, or do I assume that they are ghouls?
They do not have predatory auras, so they are mortal.
Colmorn will walk towards them before saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. I believe the time expected."
Name and rank, please.
When they say rank, Chris, what exactly does that mean?
The Invictus have a fairly large number of titles. Every full Invictus has a title. I'm actually just going to look up yours real quick.
I should probably get the Invictus Covenant book, even if it's out of date.
Yeah. You'd probably just be referred to as Sir or Master, one or the other.
I'm actually curious, how do the ranks work? Is it based on just your status, or are there other things that factor into it? Because I know with the Ordo, it was like how many coils you had and weird shit like that.
There are titles of tribute, titles of function, and terms of address. It's a bit convoluted.
He'll go with Master, apparently, since that is what they are. Master Balthazar Coldmore. I have a meeting with His Highness.
They will sort of not look you up and down, but they will gauge you for a brief moment before one of them will say, "Right this way then, sir."
Thank you. Please lead on.
They'll unlock the front doors to the building, head on in. Inside there is a largely empty foyer. The only noteworthy face, a kindred. You sense the predatory beast walking from one room to another. They look busy and in a hurry. They glance at you briefly, but they don't seem to make particular note of you. They take you up a stairwell. down a corridor and towards an office. It's quite reassuring to be here. The Guildhall's one of the places that hasn't changed all that drastically.
Did we use this 10 years ago when the previous administration had this place, or did we use different places?
It was not the primary locale of the old prince, but it was a popular meeting place for Invictus. This is a building that's always been under Invictus control. Pretty much ever since it's been created. And so it's rather iconic to the local sect.
Fascinating. But yeah, I will follow on my handlers.
Once you make your way up, you're brought to a relatively large office space. In this office space, there are two kindred, which I'll just put in the one you see right now. One is a tall, slender woman in a sleek silver dress with long black hair. With sharp eyes and slender fingers. The other is that man you know to be king. A relatively tall man of African descent, short black hair. And a fine suit. But it's slightly more casual than yours, slightly less formal.
When he enters, Coldmorn will stop at the door and very kind of rigidly and almost archaically, in the sense of his kind of decorum, he bows very deeply to the two individuals in the room before continuing inside. Very much the kind of the old form, you know, the turn of the last century kind of, you know, respective peerage and the nobility, etc.
Mm. The bow is returned by a curtsy from the woman and a bow from the king before you. Although not quite to the same extent from the king.
Obviously.
You can make me a quick... 1 second. A quick... wits plus blood potency.
That's an odd dice pool. Oh, no dice.
Okay. Your blood stirs for the briefest of moments. You can sort of feel it shift in your body. The flow of blood almost drawn in a particular direction, but nothing seems to manifest from it. Nothing that you can sense. It's a little bit strange.
So, when he's acknowledged, Balthazar will walk forward. Would it be a social faux pas to extend his hand to the king, or would it be considered to be acceptable to offer to shake his hand?
Make me intelligence plus socialize.
These are dice I have.
Actually, wits plus socialize would actually be better in this case. Because based on
You know
what
what?
you're perceiving.
We're going to spend our first willpower of the evening. Ha!
Okay.
Today is that day.
Okay. Then you're not sure. It tends to vary on the attitude of the local ruler. Some are more uptight than others. Some are stricter on that particular on the particular details of etiquette. You haven't met Stanford before, so you're not really sure how you should approach him. You know, the safest play would, the safest move would probably not to be. He can't really get offended if you don't attempt to handshake him at all.
I am, however, going to make a call here because of his suit being less prim and correct. So Balthazar is going to walk forward, and he is going to offer his hand.
Okay. The king will lean across the table and shake your hand.
A pleasure to meet you, Your Highness, properly and face to face.
Likewise, Master Coldman. I hear you've been out of city for quite some time.
Quite so. Is there a chair for him to sit down, or is he expected to stand?
There is a chair for him.
He very delicately almost sits into the chair before he'll say, "Yes, well, I will admit that after the change in regime, I felt it best to extricate myself until things had simmered down, and when I was led to understand that you were offering amnesty to those of us who had, shall we say, I will not say fought the wrong side of a conflict, but who had chosen to maintain our oaths, well, I figured that my exile had been long enough in the tooth. So I'm here to pledge my loyalty.
That is very much appreciated, regardless of what side of the unfortunate chain of events that we were on. We're all Invictus in the end. That is what separates us from the rest of the sects.
We are unconquered. My apologies. He turns to the lady. My apologies, madame. I don't believe that we've met. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Lady Melandra Silverstone. A Knight of the Invictus and current Elder of House Eliza.
Oh, that's why I felt the tug, because we're both Spina. bloodline friends. I see. Very interesting. Oh, you will forgive me, my lady. When I was last in the city, you must have still slumbered. House Eliza did not have such a honored elder at their head.
You flatter me, Master Coldmorn, but back then I was merely but a neonate. My induction into the ranks of the others has been quite recent.
I see. He will turn back to the king, and he says, "Well, I have decided to come home. I have decided, as I said, to pledge my loyalty to the new administration, which I do happily, and will be more than pleased to secure it under oath should it be needed. But I would ask you, Your Highness, how to best phrase this. Where is there a place for me in this new London, your new London?"
The king takes a moment to filter through how he's going to respond. The domain finds itself in an intriguing position, Balthazar. I'm not sure if you have heard of recent events. The killings in Norfolwich.
One moment, please.
No problem.
Are you speaking to the unfortunate instance involving, what was the name? Goodman. Mr. Goodman.
Yes.
Yes, dreadful business that.
And a sign, I believe, that the events of the past are beginning to catch up to us and the rest of the city. I find that we are being increasingly probed from enemies from without.
I am not your highness, but I would beg the question why it is you feel as though the actions of one gangrel neonate are indicative of some kind of larger power play.
Julian was merely one among many in what I see as a growing trend of the domain. It is uncommon for a kindred city to be embroiled in so many wars over so few decades. Over that time, there have been a large number of mass great reaches. First, the war in the 80s. Now the one 10 years ago. And now once again an increasing number of small incidents that seem to be indicative of a larger build-up. Intention. To pattern I've seen happen over London a number of times. I am concerned that we are drawing too much attention to ourselves. Goodman's breach in particular was remarkably severe. A lot of effort was put into removing his records 10 years ago, and removing any trace of his existence from both the local bureaucracy and the police force.
Considering you've now referred to Mr. Goodman twice in the past tense, I am to assume that he is no longer with us.
He was given one final option, one final choice. He chose to end things.
Well, he died with a rather denotated sense of honour, and to throw oneself on one's own sword. I'll give him that.
It is a better death than most kindred can ask for. And I am more merciful than most. Although I believe it is time to start setting examples.
He very casually raises an eyebrow. Is this a clandestine way of saying, as a matter of course, that you wish me to make an example of an individual?
Are you aware of a man called Hallam Chance?
Called what, sorry, Chris?
Hallam Chance.
Is there a role for this, or do I have any fucking idea? Really?
Yeah, make me an intelligence politics roll.
Watch this be my... No, I actually succeed on that one. Aha, win.
You're aware of the man, he's been in London for a while now. He has a minor degree of notoriety among the Carthians. He's a gangrel of a penchant for confidence tricks. His most famous heist, for lack of a better term, is when he fleeced the Vertex Casino, and one of the current keepers, Blair Starling, out of so much money it almost put her out of business. Ever since then, his name pops up every now and again. Usually minor incidents, minor disasters, close brushes of a masquerade. Nothing particularly severe, but always a hindrance to the Invictus sort of ruling authority.
And you wish me to deal with this individual?
I am aware that a gentleman is already looking into him. However, I believe I could use some assistance. Hallam isn't considered a grave threat to the domain, but he is part of a series of small cuts for the security of both our sect and the Masquerade. We need to start cleaning these matters up before they coalesce into a larger wound that cannot be salved. I am concerned that the situation may already very well be past saving.
Whom is this other individual who is currently investigating this gentleman?
If I recall, Keeper Starling was in talks with a Master Goodwin around a day or so ago. A very large man, part of the line of Marcellarius.
I see. If you wish this individual looked into, I am more than pleased to do so. If you wish him brought to, I am more than pleased to do so, and indeed, if you wish him inhumed, I am more than pleased to do so, as a gift to prove my loyalty.
Lady Starling is an apt keeper that I have a great deal of respect for. I would wish to see that those that cross her are brought to her accounting.
Quite so, sir. Well, in that case, he stands up and he will offer a inclination of the head. I have my task.
Mm. No doubt Lady Starling will be delighted to hear of your involvement. I'd recommend you contact Master Goodwin directly. He is unaware I'm observing the situation, and I'd like that to remain so.
I am merely to be another interested party.
I'd also advise you of caution. You and Master Goodwin are not the first kindred to try tracking down Mr. Chance. The Archon currently tracking him has already had to have been retrieved on more than one occasion, in one instance by the Keeper herself. You keep that in mind. He is quite infamous for bringing a great deal of misfortune down upon his pursuers' heads. Things just seem to happen around him. I have my suspicions.
Fascinating. Well, I believe we make our own luck. So.
I hope that is true. For your own sake.
He will nonchalantly nod his head.
As for matters pertaining to your blood, well, I leave you in the capable hands of Lady Silverstone.
Indeed, Lady Silverstone, if I may be so bold. He reaches into his jacket pocket, and you see him. He clicks open a small silver case, and he will remove a business card.
She'll take it, look at it. She, how to say, she she feigns being impressed, but will just slip it into her dress.
I will look into this matter. Oh. Kind of casually turns his head and raises an eyebrow. So, Chris, about 10, obviously, because a lot of the information Coldmorn is looking for, because I'd like to bring something to the table when I go and talk to Tiger about who this gentleman is. So he's going to kind of postulate a question. He's going to say, the Carthian. I'm led to understand that you've limited their territories rather significantly. To the north of the city, I believe. Oh no, is it the north or the west?
The west.
To the west of the city. Could you possibly tell me a noted, an area that they frequent?
For chance? No.
No, sir. Not necessarily for him. I'm speaking of more in general.
There are several hangouts. There are garages in Ealing. I would not recommend going there.
No.
Councillor Foster runs the area. There's Twickenham Stadium, ran by the Hounslow Banshees, although they have ties to the Circle.
Considering current matrimonial matters, probably best not to poke that particular wound.
The Circle is bold enough as it is.
I require how to best phrase it? A clandestine place. A bar or club, perhaps? Something of that ilk?
There are racks in Westminster and Soho. You could try those. Carthians do not have a great deal of feeding grounds within their own domains. Most of them frequent the rack within the territories that I control.
Then that is where I shall go this evening and see if I can garner any information that I can then share with Mr. Goodwin. It's been a pleasure, Your Highness. Madam Silverstone, or Lady Silverstone. He will stand up and bow.
The King will nod. Lady Silverstone will curtsy. Although she will say, as she rises, before you leave, I would be remiss to inform you that a great elder of our blood has recently arisen. They'll be attending the next Elysium.
I shall look forward to meeting you.
Be sure to show proper tribute. They are of the utmost pedigree.
I should expect nothing. So, basically, where did you say the racks were, Chris? Westminster, and where was the other one?
Westminster and Soho. It's really just all over the place in the borough of Westminster. Nightclubs and such galore. You'd also be aware of a few other locations. You've been in the city before, so you know where a lot of the racks are. You know that Harpy Amber Bramo runs for Red Ocean Club. Very popular location. You also know up in Hackney, there's a few nightclubs, predominantly ran by members of the Crone. One is rumoured to be frequented by the Queen herself. And Carthians and members of the movement do attend there every now and again.
Basically, he's trying to put his finger on the pulse as to where he could find just even a couple of low-ranking members of the movement, because he has some ideas to basically ask them for some information. So, as I said, I have something to bring Mr. Goodwin when we knock our heads together. So where would he find some Carthians, basically? In terms of a club. In terms of a club or a bar or something like that.
Really, in any and all of these locations. Depends on the night. Sometimes there are more Carthians, sometimes there are less, sometimes there are none. But you can usually find 1 or 2 Carthians in the space.
In that case, he doesn't want to go to an Elysium because he will intend to use disciplines on people when he finds them, because it's almost like he can make people love him or such like that. Who knew? You know. But what he's going to do is he will get the limo to come around, and he's going to go. Yeah. Yeah. He's gonna go. Fuck it, he's gonna go to the club in Soho that the Queen is known to frequent, because why the fuck not?
It's not in Soho, it's in Hackney.
In Hackney, then. My apologies. To see what he can see. Or would that be too upmarket? Should he go somewhere scummier?
It's, nah, you should be fine.
Okay. And what he's actually going to do is he's not going to change out of the suit, because the suit, it's still a power suit, so why the fuck not? But he's going to ditch the limo service and he's going to take a black cab rather than basically having the conspicuous limo. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're going to go. Beg your pardon?
It would be very conspicuous.
You're not wrong. So he's going to go to a club.
Okay. Then you show up to, if I recall the name, because this is actually a PC's club. It's the Moon's Kiss, I believe it was called. The exterior is impressive, but not particularly original.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of heavy neon lighting and the like. Surprisingly heavy security team. Actually, very heavy security team. But given the amount of wealth on your person, you're able to get in without issue. In fact, members of the security team appear to make specific arrangements for you to get in very quickly. You are in within about 30 seconds of arrival. You can actually make me a quick wits, empathy, or socialize check if you like.
Two. That was with empathy, by the way.
Okay. You think they're in the know. In fact, you're pretty certain they're in the know. But you make your way in. Um, the interior of the building can only be described as a very curious mixture of neon, folk horror, and cottagecore. It's a very interesting style. There's a fair amount of greenery within the club. And a lot of and the pillars all make up little wooden idols, usually depicting 3 women on each side. The rest of the club, though, remains quite modern. A good way to describe it would be anachronistic.
Ooh, fascinating.
Within the club, you do see a number of kindred. It doesn't take you long to catch the eyes of various beasts in the vicinity.
Anyone in particular who I might recognize from the good old days, or anyone of note?
Roll me wits plus composure to see if you notice anyone off the bat.
Second willpower being spent at the night because I am tired of fucking this up. Wow. Lucky I spent it, but still, 1 success.
Okay. Then, yeah, there's someone you notice. A young-looking man wearing a rather plain white buttoned shirt, black jeans. Looks like he's currently feeding on the individual he's been dancing with. Looks like a young university student.
And who is this gentleman, and why do I recognize them?
You recognize him as a guy called Jack, or Jackie. You're not sure what his last name is, or if he even has one. From what you recall, he doesn't really have a reputation at all, at least the main wide. You've bumped into him in the past, and he's one of a few Carthians that didn't immediately turn you off. He's usually quite happy to have a sit down and a chat.
So, when he's done dancing with the with his conquest, as it were, Balthazar will seat himself at a table at one end of the room and will basically order table service to the table, and he'll have a fine bottle of something brought out before giving the girl a rather decent tip and basically saying to if she could ask the gentleman over there to join him for a drink.
She'll happily nod and comply with your request. You make me another... actually, no, you made a wits composure roll and succeeded, if I recall. So I'm going to give you a bit of additional information. When she does that, she whispers into Jackie's ear and he takes note. He looks at you. And you notice he expresses a bit of bemused surprise. He clearly wasn't expecting to see you here. In fact, you reckon he wasn't expecting to see you ever again. He'll walk on over, but as he does, you notice that the barman behind him appears to be paying specific attention to him and you. And I'll actually give you face claim.
For Jack or for the barman?
For the barman.
Okay. Does the barman have a predatory aura?
No.
Very casually, Coldmorn, who's going to be sitting at the end of the bar, will just glance at him, raise an eyebrow, and will just say, "Hadn't you better be getting back to where?" As I'm going to dominate him. To basically fuck off.
Okay.
Let me just get the pool for this, because... Okay. I love how dominate's free.
It is. I think the higher levels might cost blood, but I know the lower levels don't.
1 success.
Yeah, I need it cost blood, but a simple mesmerize is free.
So he rolls his resolve, I guess.
Yes. Oh, it's minus... I think, is it minus this resolve or is it versus? It's versus plus blood potency. Alright. Okay. Alright. He'll look at you and say, "Of course, didn't mean to bother you, sir." And we'll move a few feet away from you, start attending to other customers.
Did his eyes get the kind of glazed over dominated look to kind of show, or is he just being polite? I'm curious if I fucked it up or not.
His eyes didn't glaze over, per se, but then it's not always that obvious. Oftentimes dominate actually looks quite natural.
But he'll smile. Was it Jack? What was the name of the person?
Wait 1 second. Let me get you. I accidentally forgot to put up the guy's face claim. Oops.
No worries at all.
Yes, this guy. But no, he'll as he approaches you, he just sort of he stops just short of taking a seat, and he'll say, "Thought you died."
Well, I went to Scotland. I think that there's much of a much and much of another.
Mm-hmm. How did the circle treat you?
He shrugs. They were taking in a number of refugees at the time, but then again, I'm not a fan of the climate.
Tends to be a little bit better for us, though.
I beg your pardon?
Tends to be a little bit better for us, though. All cloudy and miserable up there.
He pours a measure. I'm going to say he ordered whiskey, because it makes sense for this character. He pours a measure of it into a glass, and he kind of nudges it towards him before he pours a measure for himself. I'm going to spend the blood point to be able to drink, before he kind of will take the shot of whiskey.
You notice Jackie already actually has the Blush of Life active, and he just downs half a drink in one go. Damn. So, the first person you came to see upon your return was me? That's nice of you.
In a manner of speaking. It's because you have this wonderful superpower that I very rarely see in members of the movement called the ability to be reasonable.
Well, a lot of us can be. It's just a fair number of us are territorial, and well, most of the fanatics are dead now.
So I'd heard.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really get you very far in life, I think.
Not incorrect. So, what clan is this guy, by the way?
You know that he is Deva. You're not sure if he has a bloodline. He's definitely not yours, though.
Mm-hmm.
So you are clanmates.
Well. So how have things been for, well, the movement in my absence? As I said, during war, he shrugs. I didn't necessarily bear you any ill will, you or them.
He sort of... He looks upwards and his eyes sort of shift from side to side as if he's forming an opinion on the matter. I'd say things are going pretty well, things considered. I mean, it's not as if, we survived. I'd say that's a small victory in and of itself. But, most of the troublemakers are gone, and honestly, that's probably a good thing in the long run for both sides. We've got our space. Everybody else has theirs. Probably the best way things could have turned out, all things considered. Stanford stings a bit, but... Can't say I'm all that surprised. Feel like we might have been expecting a bit too much from him on that one.
Quite so.
Yeah. That pissed off a lot of people. But what can I do for you? You looking to get your feet wet with the men again?
In a manner of speaking. I'm looking for someone, as a matter of fact.
Oh, and who might that be?
It's funny, I suppose. I was an enforcer for the last prince, and I guess that my proclivity has caught up with me again. There's a Carthian in Gangrel. What was his name again, Chris?
Hallam. Hallam. Yeah, it's a bit of an unusual name.
Hallam, my name. Who's pissed off a lot of people. Some of them want to have a conversation with him.
Okay. That's a bit of a tricky subject for me to tackle. Given which side of the fence I'm on. Or given what side of the fence I'm on.
I mean, I think of you as a pragmatist.
True, I'm also not a traitor though. But I'd be willing to come to some sort of compromise with you. As you say, I'm a pragmatic. What do you want to know? I'll be real with you. I don't know that much.
I need to find this gentleman. Which is apparently a difficult enough task, or find someone who knows where he is. Yeah. As I said.
Yeah, he travels light. Tries to keep himself off the grid. Not off the grid, but as far as the movements are aware, he doesn't have a haven. He's one of those kindred. One of those gangrel.
They are very good at returning to the soil, aren't they?
Very good at getting around. Useful trick. I should probably pick it up sometime.
So.
No.
Oh, sorry, continue.
No, the domain's really been looking shadow. Bit of a shame, really. Anyway. You're looking for him? You wouldn't be the first.
So I'm led to understand.
Yeah. Most to go after him end up out of pocket or out of goals. Out of something, at least. I wouldn't say he's I wouldn't call him a brute, but how to put it? He can be maliciously deceptive.
That is an excellent way of phrasing it. So, do you know anyone who'd be able to find out where he hangs his hat? And if so, as we said, you're a man who likes to think of himself, which is something I can appreciate. What's your price?
Tell you what, I'll be fair to you. We've been fair to each other in the past. I'll give you some. I'll give you some info. Nothing particularly compromising, because, well, I don't want to be hounded out of the movement. And while I am pragmatic, I'm still loyal to the movement. I wouldn't be there if I wasn't.
I understand the point of view. I can respect the loyalty.
I can give you a basic rundown of who he is, though, his reputation. I'll just call it a trivial favour. Nothing particularly severe.
Done.
Alright. So Hallam is, he's got a bit of age on him. He's an anciller. Has a habit of, travelling around the, city as a fox. Generally doesn't use vehicles. Vehicles are traceable. Here he can also turn into a bird. I think it's a crow. Though I've never seen it myself. And quite a few kindred in the city turn into birds and crows. I know Sadie does. One of the more popular changes. There's a lot of rumours about him passing on misfortune to people.
That's something I had heard.
Yeah. From what I've been told, this is second-hand info, I haven't witnessed it, take it with a grain of salt. That is quite literally true. A lot of people think he's a con man. And well, he is. But according to people to have well, been screwed out of a fair deal with him in the past. They've never been able to tell if he's physically cheated them or not. Though he certainly has, but there's no evidence of it.
Now that is interesting. Chris, if we're a member of a clan, are we counted as having a kind of a rough idea about the bloodlines that are in our own clan?
It sort of depends. You probably need high academics or a cult.
As an academic, it's like 3 or 4.
Okay, yeah, you have a rough idea. You know some of the more prominent bloodlines. There are ones that can be quite obscure, but you're aware of some of the more prominent ones. Particularly,
He says, sounds like the one that you guys have. Kind of clicks his fingers. Zelani, something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I suppose that's a comparison.
Interesting. So, he's a con man. What's his game of choice or his particular interests?
Oh. I recall his biggest hit being Blair's Casino. That was quite a while ago, though. But gambling dens aren't the only thing he hits. It's really just anybody with a lot of money and too much time on their hands. From what I understand, there's always kindred. And he likes to pick on the Invictus a lot, but I mean, Carthian is kind of expected, I guess.
You don't say.
Yeah, from what I'm aware, he's taken a lot of money from the Invictus over the years. What he uses it for, I don't actually know. I mean, it's not like he's spending it on housing or anything. He doesn't have one. Doesn't have any vehicles. I don't know where he keeps all of it. Don't know if he. You know, I can't imagine you could put all of that money into a bank account or something and not start raising alarm bells. And oh, I know the establishment has quite a few ties to the domain's financial sector. I imagine you guys would catch on to that pretty quick if that was the case. So I don't really know. So I don't really know how he's what he's using the money for, or how he's moving it around. I'd imagine it's some sort of... He's got some sort of operation, though. Too large amounts of cash for it to be anything less.
You're not wrong.
I know he also has a... he's also quite capable at disguising himself. He can change his face, if you know what I mean.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Quite unique for a savage. He's one of the more tactful ones.
Fascinating. It seems like I'm trying to nail down Smoke.
That's the intention, I think. The way I've always interpreted it is that he takes more pleasure in the act itself than what he's gaining out of it. I think it's an ideological thing.
Fascinating.
I don't know if he's a Robin Hood or a Joker type, though. Don't know if he's like giving it all to the poor or something, or if he's just decided to burn everything down.
So you're saying he likes to thumb his nose in the... He likes to take their cash and make them look stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he's in it to... To my knowledge, he's never killed any of you. He's never bonded you. Never done anything like that. He's never done. I guess he's always pushed a line. Something we're pretty good at as a whole.
Apparently, he may have. Was it he stole something valuable from a member of the Invictus, which is why we want him? I remember. I could have sworn he said he stole something.
He almost drove Bless Starling out of business a number of years ago, and basically the king has said that he'd like Starling to get a bit of payback, essentially. He'd like to basically get a little bit of retribution in her name. Is the way he sort of put it to you. Sounds like from the way the king framed it, he was basically saying, he's basically sort of suggesting that by sending you to do this, he's doing the Keeper a favor as a member of his circle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like as a member of the Invictus in good standing. Like, she's the Keeper, she's part of my court. I'll look out for her, as a gesture of goodwill.
So with that, you just see Coldmorn stand up, and he flicks down a basically a whatchamacallit, like a handful of 20s onto the bar before he'll say, "Well, it's been a pleasure doing business with you. Feel free to drink on me for the rest of the evening. You've given me exactly what I need. I just need the correct bait for the rat to walk into the trap."
Sure thing. I wish you luck, but I feel like that's sort of against my interests, so I'll wish you well.
Good evening, Frankie.
See you around, Balthazar. I have to say, and not why I missed you.
I beg your pardon?
I have to say, and not why I missed you. It's a little refreshing to see you back in town.
I've always treated this like a business. At the end of the day, there's no point in being personal. And when it is we can do favors for one another, we should do. On life's far too long to have enemies.
I can respect play. I'll see you around. If you need something from me, you know who to call.
I do. Thank you. So, Chris, Balthazar knows what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
He stands up and he walks out. He takes out his phone. Because basically, I've kind of decided to do a macro solution for a macro problem. Because I can't nail this dude down. Like, I don't have the skill set. I could, in theory, enlist other kindred, but it was a task that was given to me and Mr. Goodwin. So he's going to contact Mr. Goodwin. But I know what he's going to do. I know how he's going to catch him. Because do you know what happened with Robin Hood and the archery tournament? It's one of the famous stories about Robin Hood.
I actually don't.
So, the Sheriff of Nottingham wanted to capture Robin Hood and Prince John, but they didn't know who he was and they didn't know where he was. So what they did was they created an entire archery tournament based around whoever won would get a golden arrow and a kiss from Maid Marian. Now, they knew that Robin Hood would come in disguise because he's Robin Hood, but logically he'd also be, because Robin Hood was the best shot, logically he'd be the one who won the archery tournament. You following with me?
Mm-hmm.
So what Balthazar is going to do is essentially, in a larger macro scale, because he needed a business to get into anyway, so what he's going to start doing is, he's going to find more than likely a casino, a publicly traded casino in London, and he's going to start fucking with its stock value, basically poking the value and basically kind of gerrymandering the stock to make it either crash or go incredibly low. Then he's going to sweep it up and buy it up If you're following with me,
Okay.
he's basically doing. Okay, are you aware of how weaponized inside trading works, or weaponized stock manipulation works?
Vaguely.
It's basically where you can artificially crash stock. It kind of happened with GameStop, ironically. They kind of artificially crashed their own stock.
Yeah. It's market manipulation, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's going to basically try and buy out a casino in London by fucking around with its stock and using a healthy amount of presence and dominate to basically convince its staff and CEO to sign it over for a very low bargain bottom price, because he needed a business to sink his teeth into and he needed a kind of a quasi long-term project. So he's like, fuck it, casinos are profitable, they're essentially resort hotels, I'll do a casino, because why not? And then what he's going to do is he's going to have a very, very large, very well advertised poker tournament that's being run by a member of the Invictus. You following with me?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Because it'll shake this dude out.
That'll be a downtime.
Oh, absolutely.
So set that up, and what we'll do here is that Jackie and Balthazar will go their separate ways, and we will end the scene there as Balthazar starts to scheme and gets in contact with Phineas, because Phineas also
scheme
that may be able to help you.
Yeah.
So, thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye bye.